my friends. Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday. Is it Saturday? Yes. Oh, great. It's Toonami Day. Anybody staying up late for Toonami tonight? Sweet. We love you guys. Only Toonami. You love Toonami? I kind of love Toonami too. I love Tom too. Tom is awesome. Did you guys see the cosplay as Tom from San Diego Comic-Con? Yeah, if you get a chance, go on adultswim.com, and we do a thing called Toonami Pre-Flight. And we did a live pre-flight from San Diego Comic-Con a few weeks ago, and I dressed up in full cosplay as Tom with the lights and everything, and Sarah was in full cosplay as herself, and Jason and Gil dressed up too, so we're so stupid. But I have mad respect for cosplayers now because it hurts. It's not really fun. So anyway, thank you guys for being here. Anybody in the room have no idea who I am? It's okay if you're honest. Yeah? Oh, really? Wow. Well, thank you for being here. And for the rest of you, go back to sleep, as we always say. So I'm going to open this up to you guys. And, wow, hand up right away. Go ahead.
Yeah, so how was it working the clay animation of the Box Troll?
Box Trolls. What was it like working on Box Trolls?
Yeah.
Box Trolls was awesome. If you guys haven't seen Box Trolls, it's a stop-motion animated feature from Leica Films, the people who did Coraline and Paranorman. And they brought me in to play the character of Shu. Sort of like Guillemon, but spoken a different language. It was and another character called Sparky, who basically ran the electronics in their underground hive that they lived in, and he would usually get things to work by sticking a fork in a toaster. Not recommended for kids at home, please don't do that. And he spoke the same language, but he was more like that type of voice. Eggs. It was super fun, and they actually invited me to their studio, and I got to go see how they handmade these puppets, and they were incredible. I think my characters had something like 5,000 faces that they computer printed and hand painted, and they had magnets on the back of them. So instead of the old style of stop motion animation where they did everything with clay, they actually computer printed this stuff. They made the hair by hand, all the fabrics by hand, and they would just replace these faces or parts of the faces for each shot. And it would take them, I think they said they got 8 seconds of footage per week with 26 studios working at the same time, 26 stages working at the same time. It's an unbelievable process. So if you guys haven't seen Box Trolls, check it out, whether I'm in it or not, or any of the Leica films, because they're beautiful. It's just a beautiful old style of animation that's been brought into the new media now. So yeah, it's beautiful, and they're wonderful people to work with too. They actually sent me little care packages every week as we were in production with handwritten notes on scrolls that were all carefully folded up from the town that they lived in. And when I went to the studio, one of the stages had this manhole cover. The stages are beautiful, and they're all to scale. And the manhole cover said, "Here Be Monsters," which was the name of the original book series from England. And I thought that was such an amazing detail that nobody will ever see in the film. And I mentioned it as we're walking through the studio, and about 2 weeks later, they send me this cast iron manhole cover that says "Here Be Monsters" on it. And so I have that in my office, and that doesn't happen from most studios. So yeah, so big shout out to Leica. It was an amazing thing to work on. Thanks for that. Okay, how about you right here?
What's a franchise that you'd like to work with in the future, or one you wish you could have worked with?
Oh man, well, any Miyazaki film. I've never had a chance to work on a Miyazaki film, and I love those films. Some of the bigger animated feature films that they usually cast celebrities in. It would be fun to work on more of that kind of stuff. But I've been so lucky, dude. I don't think about the stuff that I'm not working on. I'm just grateful for the stuff I get to work on. How about you over there?
What was the most frustrating role you've ever done?
Wow, there've been a lot. Frustrating is a hard word, because I'm usually not frustrated. I like the challenge, and the harder it is, the more interesting it is to me. I like to break through my own fears and paradigms. Probably the most frustrating thing I ever did was this thing that they hired me for that they just called Project X. And I walked into the room, and they said I was going to be playing a creature, monster, and terrorizing people. And I thought, okay, well, this is right up my alley. And I go into the studio. They wouldn't tell me anything more about it. And I go in there, and all of a sudden, I'm this creature with tentacles. And there's a young girl involved. And that was, I'm not going to go any farther than that because this is a PG-13 thing. I didn't know what was happening until I saw some of the footage, and I went, oh, this is not the kind of thing I really want to work on. And I walked out, and I said, here's the contract. I don't need the money, but thank you, and bless you, and I hope you find somebody to take this role. That was the only time. It was not, for the kids in here, it was a naughty movie, and I wasn't going to work on the naughty movie because, yeah, it's way past all of our bedtimes. Okay. How about you? And I'll come back around this way.
What was your favorite performance of Wolverine?
Oh man, Wolverine's so cool anyway. I think I loved Hulk versus that movie, Hulk versus Wolverine, because to my mind that was the most accurate to the comic books that I remembered. And the first comic that I'd seen was Hulk fighting Wolverine, and he got to draw blood, and so it was very feral and realistic for me. And I got to work in the same room with Fred Tatasciore, the guy who plays the Hulk, and he's one of my dear friends. And one of my favorite memories from that was that Fred and I are very physical actors. So we'll stand in front of the microphone, and you have to keep your face right in front of the microphone, but the body can go nuts. So Fred and I aren't afraid of looking like idiots, and we're, just the arms are flying around. We're looking like we're flailing or something. And we were so physical, they thought we were going to knock each other out. So they had to separate the microphones a little bit. And Fred and I both sweat a lot in the booth. He sweats even more than I do, and he had really long hair at the time. And his hair was just dripping wet. And at one point, he goes, Hulk smash! And he throws a big punch, and his hair just like in slow motion, whoosh, and just shoots a spray of sweat all over me. And I thought, all right, I'm just gonna take this in because this is Fred Tatasciore juice, and hopefully it'll help my acting abilities at some point. So that was awesome for so many reasons. I love voicing Wolverine because he's pretty tough. He's a lot tougher than I am, and sort of fulfilled the childhood fantasies of being a tough guy. Very cool.
You're the best there is?
I'm the best there is at what I do, but what I do isn't very nice.
My favorite role of yours is Grunts from Mass Effect. I just wanted to know which one of the moments while being Grunts was your favorite.
Thanks, Shepard. I think one of the best moments for me was the first moments when he kind of hatched or whatever came out of the tube, and he was Shepard's baby, and he was trying to come to terms with what his purpose was. All he knew was that he was sort of born to fight, and he had to sort of figure out what he was there to do. That was an interesting thing because I was figuring out the character at the same time. So that was one of the best parts, and I think the Citadel stuff was hilarious. So some of the lines they wrote for me were just ridiculous, and anytime I get to play a really menacing character that just does ridiculous things, it's this great dichotomy that makes me very happy inside because I have a weird mind like that. Awesome. How about you in the glasses there, sir? Yeah.
On the flip side, what's it like doing the voice of Leron?
Leron from Gurren Lagann. It's very liberating, hun. I got to say, when you screw it in, give it a hard, manly twist. And that was the cleanest thing I said as that character. It was so much fun recording that. My friend Tony Oliver directed that, and Tony is this wonderful director. He was a director on Power Rangers, the original Power Rangers, and very respectful director and actor, and he loves actors, and he tries to keep everything very professional in the room. And when I get in there doing a character like Leron, it becomes very unprofessional very quickly. So I had an alternate line for virtually every line that Leron did that was so much dirtier than whatever made it to the, the final recording. And it became a challenge for me to make Tony squirm in his seat. So after every line, I would watch him and just see, like when I would say, when you screw it in, give it a hard, manly twist. Even that line, I could just see him kind of go like this. And it would just get worse and worse. And at one point, he was just going, oh. he would have to take breaks. Usually it's the actor that wants to take breaks, but Tony would actually have to take breaks, and I called that a personal victory. So, yeah, that was super fun to work on. I loved working on that show. How about you? All the way in the back, and then I'll start moving forward, and then I'll come to that side.
One of your most recent roles, which I was surprised to see you in, was Transformers Prime as Starscream.
Yes.
So my question is, like, what was it like trying to put a new spin on that character?
A lot of pressure. G1 fans are pretty serious, with good reason. So I was terrified to take on that role, honestly. And Charlie Adler, my dear buddy Charlie Adler, who's one of the greatest actors in the world and a great director and a dear friend, was playing Starscream in the movies, in the Michael Bay movies at the time. And I thought at that point he was my Starscream. And because I was doing other things when G1 came out. I was living my life and not really watching much in the cartoon world. So I didn't really have that much of a connection to it. But at that point, Charlie was my Starscream, and I actually called him when I got booking, and I said, Charlie, why aren't you playing this role? You're perfect for this. And he said, I know, but I'm really busy, and there's a whole host of reasons why I can't do it. Just go ahead and do it and make $1 million. And I thought, okay. And so I walked into the room that first day, and I was really scared, because it was a lot of the people who had worked on G1 too. And they liked my darker take on Starscream. That was the original audition that I did. And by the time I got into that room, I had done 2 or 3 more auditions to get there. And so I just started with him very deep and menacing, and as though he really could kill someone. Starscream needs that, I think. And then we got up into the girly parts that Chris Latta did, and so we could sort of cover the whole spectrum. And my goal really was to honor everybody's version of Starscream to that point where I would show up. So there's a little bit of Tom Kenny in there, there's a little bit of Chris Latta, a little bit of Charlie Adler, and then my own take on it. And my goal was really to have something unique that really did honor what came before. And I think that we achieved that pretty well with a lot of guidance from Hasbro and the group involved with that. But my favorite thing was when we did go up into Chris Latta territory, where he would, the girly kind of stuff. When they wanted me to go into the girly scream, they had a signal for me. And the signal was a bunch of executives from Hasbro in suits and ties giving me jazz hands. And you don't see that in recording studios typically, so it was super fun. And then getting to work with guys like Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, who were 2 of my heroes. And Peter Cullen walking into the room just looking like this perfect old Hollywood gentleman, perfectly dressed, and being very quiet, shaking your hand as he walks in, and then he steps up to the mic, and he's a smoker, so he'd go through a lot of that. And then he'd just calmly go up to the microphone and he'd go, transform and roll out. And the windows would flex in the room, and all of our bodies were vibrating. And you see a whole room of adult professional voice actors going, oh my God, it's Optimus Prime. It was amazing. It was fangirl day every day, and everybody in that cast was an unbelievable actor too. So it was hard just to keep it together because the level of talent in that room was so amazing. It's one of my favorite memories working on that, and we're still very close. The whole class, the whole cast is very close to this day. Okay, who's next? You, and then I'll come back that way.
No more final questions. This one is, you mentioned working with Fred Tatasciore on Hulk vs. Wolverine. You also worked with Nolan North. You worked with a lot of them.
Yep.
Both of them, I think, a lot. What's it like working with that knucklehead
Nolan North? Oh, what a pain in the...
I would say that.
Nolan is one of the most interesting people I've ever met. I met him working on Wolverine and the X-Men, I believe, when Deadpool first appeared. And I think it was on that show. And my first impression of Nolan, we had said maybe 5 words to each other, and then he started describing his vasectomy to me. That's Nolan.
That sounds like
That's Nolan. And in lurid, awful detail. He paints an amazing picture that you don't want in your mind, and is still stuck in there to this day. I'm still trying to wash that out of there. Nolan he's foul and brilliant and wonderful and one of the most hilarious human beings. He can destroy a room, and did many, many times. Yeah, there were many times where they actually had to separate us because it was just too funny, and we couldn't get anything done. We literally couldn't get our work done. So, yeah, Nolan he's an amazing character. What a guy, and what a career he's built for himself too. It's amazing. Okay, how about you and the epic beard right there? Yes. painful. Shishio is one of those roles that literally all I remember is screaming and pain and burning up. And anytime that they direct you to burn to death, it hurts. No matter how well trained you are, if you're going, ah! You're doing that for 4 hours and something's gonna roast in there. It was just painful. I heard it was really good. I still haven't seen it. I'm a bad voice actor. I haven't watched that show. But I heard it was really good. So thank you for watching. Yeah, you had your hand up for a while there.
On the note of the Transformers thing, I have two questions actually. One is more serious because I just wanted to know, since you also played Heatwave in Rescue Bots, do you ever plan on returning to the Transformers franchise?
If they hire me. Yeah, I'm waiting by the phone. I love Transformers. I love working on Transformers. So yeah, I'm hoping I get to work on Transformers a lot more.
And then the other one is just more of a sillier question. Like, I just gotta know, I don't need to know how or why, but does Starscream come back at the end of Robots in Disguise?
Does he come back at the end of Robots in Disguise?
Yeah.
Or you mean, is he still okay?
Yeah.
Of course he's all right. Starscream has been through worse than that. Thank you. I'm going to try some people from over here, and then I'll come back to here. Okay, how about you right here, sir?
Do you enjoy hero roles or villain roles more?
Yes. I'm an actor who gets fired every day, and so I like working. I like doing whatever they will hire me for. Literally we get fired every day. We work as subcontractors, and so I just love to work. And heroes and villains satisfy different parts of my messed up psyche in different ways. Some days heroes are more fun to work on. Some days when I'm stuck in Los Angeles traffic, all I want to do is be a villain and kill people. It's sort of cathartic. But yeah, they're both great for different reasons. I mean, getting to say, rescue bots, roll to the rescue is awesome, because I know little kids are going to connect with that. It's super fun. And I think of when my kids were little. Now they're big hairy men, but it makes me think of the fun days when I was a dad and playing with them on my lap. Okay, doctor over here. Yep.
What was it like voicing a Spike Spiegel?
Just a humble bounty hunter. Hey, speaking of Spike Spiegel, there's my Julia right there. That's Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, ladies and gentlemen. You want to come up with me? Oh. Well, she was the director of Cowboy Bebop. That's perfect timing. How'd you do that? Spike Spiegel was probably the most transformative character of my career. It was where I truly learned the craft of acting, taught by Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, who was my director at the time, as her first directing role and my first leading role. And I was terrified, literally terrified for the first 4 or 5 episodes. And she gently guided me into the process of what it meant to be an actor who not only had to be menacing and inwardly focused, but also very vulnerable at times. And that was a very difficult thing for me to do. I was used to playing big, broad characters or crazy characters or super menacing creatures, but to actually have to become vulnerable and talk about real issues that hurt is, to me, the essence of acting. You really have to be able to connect with something real that affects you in such a deep way. And Mary taught me how to do that in the course of that show. So, and it's led to so many other things. It led to Toonami, it led to Megas XLR, it led to Legend of Korra, which I didn't know until we finished recording that series. But so many people are fans of that show that it affected my life in innumerable ways. And now, 18, 19 years later, Mary and I, who have been friends for all this time, are now a couple in real life. So it's the show that keeps on giving. It's awesome. Yeah. And yeah, so that's probably the best thing about the whole thing. I mean, we went scuba diving with sharks yesterday together. I went scuba diving with sharks with Julia. How awesome is that? Okay, you had your hand up before. Yes.
What are some of your future roles that you could tell us?
Well, the first one would be... We're not allowed to say anything. We all have chips installed in our neck. Did you ever see Kingsman? That's what would happen. Yeah, it would just be a vapor of color if we start talking. We have to sign what they call non-disclosure agreements. They're very strongly binding legal documents that require us to do a whole lot of shutting up until something has been announced. So the moment that we can announce it, we generally do on social media. So I'll blast it out there to the world as soon as I can talk about the things that we're working on. But
My other question would be, what is one of your funniest moments?
oh, there have been so many. Oh my goodness. Well, probably my favorite one, for those of you who heard this, tune out now and go back to sleep, but one of my favorite funny moments was in a place called Magnitude 8. We were recording some anime, I don't even remember what it was. We were doing background vocals, what they call walla, where we're filling in like a crowd scene. And in this particular crowd scene, we were all yelling at the top of our lungs. And we were working in a room that we called affectionately the refrigerator. It's comfortable for one person, a little tight for two people. Any more than that, it's miserable. It's a little recording booth. We had 5 people in there. And I was up at the front, and everybody was we were all sort of huddled around and squished into each other. And there's a glass door in front and the monitor on the other side so we could see what's going on the screen. And when the crowd comes up and they're screaming, we knew that it was time to scream. So we're all up there, I'm ready to go, and I'm just about to scream, and I'm mid-scream, and go, ah! And then all of a sudden a finger goes up my butt from behind. And not only did it affect my scream, which sort of went, ah! But I hawked this horrible loogie onto the glass in front of me, right in front of the monitor where we're all supposed to be looking. And we just see this thing sit there and it starts dripping down very slowly. And we had to stop the session and everybody had to pile out of there. And the first thing I want to know is who did it. Because there were 3 guys and a girl who I didn't know in there, and the director, Kevin Seymour, who was one of the great directors of all time from anime. He's no longer with us here on this plane. He's laughing at me right now from up there somewhere. But Kevin was a very quiet, reserved, devious human being. And Kevin had planned this thing out, and this was his girlfriend in the booth behind me who was the culprit, who did this. And so I walk out of the booth and I said, who did this? And Kevin just starts going, and then he points to his girlfriend, and I said, you dog, that was disgusting. And I'd like to go a little bit deeper than that into this story, but I can't because there are kids in the room. But it wasn't funny at the time, it was more awful, but it's funny now, so. Yeah, there's been so many stories like that. Okay, how about you in the glasses here, sir?
Yeah, I actually got your autograph yesterday, but there's something else I mean to ask. My favorite role of yours is actually Tank Dempsey from Call of Duty Zombies.
Hoorah!
And one thing I always want to know is, going from, after Black Ops 1, you had to do like really super crazy, super soldier Dempsey. Then, with Origins, you had to come in this like reserved, hero type Dempsey. What did you enjoy doing more?
Dempsey, because they hired me. I was just happy to be Dempsey, dude. Slaughtering gut bags, I didn't care what form it took. It was interesting pulling him back a little bit, because for me, the essence of Dempsey was really the guy who just had no control, was just yelling all the time and, splattering maggot addicts as fast as he could and yelling at the other guys in his party. But it was interesting. It's always interesting when you take a character like that and you pull him back a little bit. And just from an actor's standpoint, it was a challenge to pull a guy back who's used to saying, "You got dead flesh on my new boots!" to being a guy who's questioning his life and his purpose in it. It's an interesting acting challenge. So thank you for that. But you right here.
Well, first off, when it was announced that Toonami was canceled, how did you feel about that, as well as when you did your first new recording as Tom?
Oh man, we had to have a moment of silence. Literally, we worked together on the phone. Many of the people that I worked with at Toonami, up until that time, I had never even met, because they were in Atlanta and I was in Los Angeles. We worked literally over the phone through recording studios. But there was a bond that formed over those years, and all of us had become so fond of Toonami, and even more so fond of the message that was getting out to you guys and how you guys were connecting, especially with the inspirational speeches and things. That meant a lot to us, that resonated with you guys. So when it came to an end at that time, it was profound and powerful and horribly sad for us. We thought it felt like the end of an era for us, because a lot of kids grew up watching Toonami in the afternoons. So it was a rough time. It was a very rough time. We didn't know if it would ever come back, and we literally had a moment of silence on the phone. And then when we did the April Fool's stunt, I think it was 2012, We did that basically as a gift to the fans, just to say we remember you and we're grateful to you, and we're going to bring back one night of the old school Toonami just to bring back all the feels. And we really meant that as a gift, and half the audience took that as it was intended, and the other half thought we were just being cruel. It was just the cruelest April Fool's joke in the world. So there was a lot of mixed emotion going on with that, but that night that it aired, the normal viewership for Adult Swim at the time was about 200,000 viewers. That night it went to something like 1.4 million viewers. And so that kind of woke us up to the fact that people missed this. They missed Toonami, and there still might be an audience for it. And so I learned how to use Twitter that night. I think it was Gil Austin from the network sent me a text, and he said, "Dude, are you on Twitter?" And I said, "I have an account, but I don't know how to use it." And he goes, "Well, get on right now." And I went on Twitter, and I was tweeting with you guys all night about the show and how cool it was and all the memories that it brought back. And so people were saying, "Well, how do we get it back on the air?" And I said, "I don't know, I'm just a voice monkey. I guess you gotta tell the network." And then a couple fans signed on, and they said, "Well, this is how you do it. You flood the network and you use these hashtags." And we just started doing it every Saturday night. We would have Twitter storms and just blast the network. And we ended up shutting down their website and screwing up their Twitter account. And this went on for a few months. And finally the network said, "Fine, you can put your little show back on, but we're not gonna give you any money. You guys all have to do it on your own time." And we went, "Okay, we'll do it," because we wanted to bring it back for you guys. So for several months, we just kind of did it on our own time and did it out of love for the genre and for the fans. And you guys really put it back on the air. So it was one of the greatest things in my life for that show to actually get a restart. And now we're kind of back into its former glory. It's really late at night, but it's awesome again. And so we're on tonight. Only Toonami on Adult Swim. Thank you for that. Okay, how about you over there? Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
First I want to say,
Oh.
and second, Orochimaru was one of your, probably one of your longest roles, correct?
Yes. Still going.
So, I was wondering, when you first started to audition for Orochimaru, what were your thoughts on his character design and how your process of getting into his character?
I thought he was creepy awesome. He was amazing. Well, Mary Elizabeth, are you still in here, honey? Yeah, you are. She directed that show too. And she helped me to, I don't even remember how we created my version of Orochimaru, because she was doing the Grass Ninja version of him when he first appeared. She did the voice for it. And then she said, "Okay, so you're gonna be taking this from this and turning it into this guy." And I don't even remember how we did that. Yeah, she, lots of S's, as I recall. Highs and lows. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's like a constant gas leak on a roller coaster.
You talked very elegant and very creepy at the same time.
Yeah, well, that was sort of the challenge. And it was her idea really to bring him in the highs and lows, and I think that really made him creepy. Because it almost sounded like he was cuddly when he went into the high range. It was soft and sweet, and then he would go down, and it was creepy and gross, and the tongue would come out, and me throwing up snakes, and it got worse and worse and worse.
Jiminy Glick snake version.
Jiminy Glick, you guys know Jiminy Glick? Yeah. Look him up. That's your homework assignment for tonight, Jiminy Glick. I think that would be a good assignment. All the way in the back there, sir. Yeah. Oh, then I'll come back to you. Hold that thought. Okay. Yes.
First is a sentiment that I love the role of Starscream and Transformers Prime that got me hooked on the series as a whole. So,
Thank you. You have excellent taste.
and my question regarding that is how that voice came to be rather than going back to the role of like the V1 Starscream being all whiny and all that, but instead in a nice, devious, very benevolent, just evil, awesome, sexy voice.
Thank you. We talked about that a little bit earlier. My first interpretation of Starscream was to go from the scary perspective. I wanted him to be capable of doing some terrible damage. And then going up into the girly spot was just the icing on the cake. So that's where we started, really. And I had a lot of help doing that from the people at Hasbro and all of the original people from G1 who were there to oversee that. They had a very clear vision of what they wanted Starscream to be, and a lot of that is motivated by the character design too. They showed me the new character design for Starscream, which was completely different than any Starscream interpretation before that, and that informed my choices. Quite often, if they do show me a picture, all of a sudden a voice will pop into my head, just as though you're reading a comic book and you have voices going on in your mind. I think most people do. That happens to me just from looking at a picture, and that's how I start with a character. So it was a very organic process, and fortunately they just agreed with my interpretation. It's as simple as that. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And you had a question over here, right? Yeah, you. Did you go to sleep? It's okay. Whatever I'm doing Monday because I'm still employed. I love them all, dude. It's like children. I have 3 kids, and I don't love any of them more than the others. Well, maybe I do a little bit. No, I don't. I don't. But if I had to choose between my children, that would be a really tough choice. It's the same with my voice acting roles because I connect to each one personally for different reasons. Even if they're a bad guy, I still have to find something that I connect to with the bad guys too. So from day to day, it changes. Every single day, it's different. Today, it might be Starscream. Tomorrow, it might be Gilman. I don't know. Okay, you have a question here?
Sorry to take on the question, but I'm not sure if a lot of people know this. Could you tell them about the first convention you went to where you were, quote, heckled?
Oh, yeah, the first convention I went to was in Sacramento, I think. I don't even remember where it was now. San Jose. It was in San Jose. And I was sitting on a panel of people who were doing, I can't even remember the name of the show. It was a big show that a lot of people were upset about because they took a bunch of elements of a classic Japanese show and they kind of made their own Americanized version of it. And back then, it was the subbers versus the dubbers big time. And dubbers were not accepted at all. And there wasn't a lot of well-dubbed anime at the time, to be fair. But they threatened our lives. It wasn't just heckling. They literally threatened our lives, and they said that we were ruining the art form of anime. And so I didn't go to conventions for a while after that. They actually threatened my life, and they threatened my family's life, and I had to change my phone number. It was pretty rough back then. So I didn't do cons for at least 10 years after that. And now, fortunately, the audience has grown up, and there are better dubs, and you guys are much nicer. So thank you for not threatening my life for doing anime.
That's what I always do whenever I hear some jerk saying that all dubs are terrible. I'm like, you realize what happens when you have that kind of attitude?
Yeah.
It's what threatened Steve Blum's life.
Well, I think it was Robotech. It might have been Robotech, and which I think it was amazing anyway. Robotech was amazing, but there were a lot of the otaku that would not accept it. They just unforgiving. Yeah, it's gotten a lot easier now. Do you have a question here? Okay.
It's probably a question you get a lot. Do you have any words of wisdom, tips, or advice for people who have
Getting into voice acting is about a 4-hour conversation. So here's a quick path. Go to iwanttobeavoiceactor.com. I recommend this all the time. It's a website that's written by D. Bradley Baker, who's one of the greatest voice actors in the world, in my opinion, and a great guy, and does it for the right reasons. And he put together this free website, which I think is the most important feature of it, because there are millions of people that think they want to get into voice acting. When they realize what it actually requires, it's work. It's not easy, and it takes years and years and years, like anything else. And so Dee gives a very realistic overview without dissuading you from doing it, because there's always, in my opinion, there's always room for new people to come in. We love to get new people into the industry. It takes away work from us, but I've always been of the mindset that there's enough for everyone. And if you don't have that mindset in this industry, it'll eat you alive. And some people get very jealous of other voice actors. It's the worst thing you can possibly do. So the first tip I would give you is to do it because you love to do it, and don't compare yourself to anyone, because there literally is only one of you. Okay? All right. How about this lady right here? Yes.
What was it like working with the rapper Logic?
Logic is one of my dearest friends in the world. He's, for those of you who don't know him, I talked about him a little bit yesterday. He's on tour right now with his new album called Everybody. He starts out every concert talking about peace, love, and positivity. And in the rap community, you don't hear that a lot. And Bobby contacted me a while ago because he's a big old nerd. He's an anime fan and he's a gamer, and he kind of grew up listening to my voice in some of his favorite shows, and there was a connection there. It helped him during a time when he was living in a gang household. It was hardcore in Maryland, and people weren't surviving in his neighborhood. And this was something that helped him to stay stable. And he remembered that all those years. And later on, he started becoming popular, and he contacted my agent and asked me if I would be interested in doing something with him on one of his albums. I went, what? A 25-year-old rap star wants me to do something on his album? I'm this old dude. I couldn't believe that he was even interested. But as luck would have it, he lived right down the street from me at the time. And he had just rented a house, and he was right down the street from me. He didn't know that when he contacted me. And I sat down with him and had a Philly cheesesteak, and we talked, and I just fell in love with the guy. He's amazing. He's one of the best humans I've ever met. And his new album, Everybody, is literally about the connection of every human being on the planet. And we forget that, and especially in these times, it's really important to remember that. And to acknowledge what some people would see as the negatives about us, that some of us have anxiety, some of us have depression, some of us have even felt suicidal. He talks about that during his concert. I've never seen anybody else in the world do that. And he's the real deal. He lives and breathes that every single day. And I send him ridiculous messages almost every night. I send him videos of you guys when you come to my signing table. If you talk about him, I'll send him stuff. So would you guys like to send him a message? Yeah? All right. I'll record it right now and I'll send it to him. He's probably on his tour bus right now somewhere.
Spider-Man should be black.
He should. Black Spider-Man is the most awesome character in the world, dude. Damien rocks it. He's unbelievable. All right, so on the count of 3, say I love you, Logic. All right. 1, 2, 3. All right, I'll send that to him tonight. Yeah, he's awesome. He's such a great nerd too. He's playing D&D with us now too. Yeah, so he comes in whenever he's in town. He comes and sits in with us and plays D&D. He's awesome. If you don't know who Logic is, please look him up because he's the best. He's just the best. And his music is amazing too. And so is the whole Rat Pack. I see you. Okay, how about you in the pink hair?
I know this is probably kind of tacky to ask, but I would regret it if I didn't. Can you please say see you in Space Cowboy?
Okay, tell me when you're ready. Should I say it to YouTube? That's okay. You ready? See you, Space Cowboy. Bang. You're welcome. That never gets old. That's awesome. How about you right here, sir? Right here, yeah.
Two more questions now. What was your favorite line for voicing both Starscream and Orochimaru?
Oh man, favorite lines are hard. I wrote some down. Let me see if I have something good. See, when you're a voice actor, you don't have to remember anything. That's the best thing. Orochimaru, that starts with O, right? Okay. I'm beginning to like this village. I think I'll make it mine. Sometimes I throw up snakes. And Starscream? Oh, I don't know. What do you mean, where's your master? Never mind him. I am my own master. And I'm your master. Why is this so difficult for everyone to accept? Thank you. I know it's weird coming out of this face. How about you right here?
If any of your childhood school teachers were here, what would they tell us about you?
Oh, wow, that's an interesting question. I was kind of a class clown, so there'd be a couple teachers that would say that kid would just never pay attention. But, you know, it changed. It actually changed. When I was younger, I was very distracted very easily. Once I got up into high school, there were some classes, if I was interested in something, I would be laser focused, and I would be one of the better students in class. If I wasn't interested, I'd be up to all sorts of shenanigans. I met my best friend by shooting rubber bands into the back of his head. And so I got in trouble a little bit in school, but I was a B student most of the time, and I think that my teachers would say that I was always nice to everybody. I was bullied, so I was always coming to the defense of kids who were bullied. So that's one thing that I would say that my teachers would remember, that I really tried to be that guy to be helpful at that time. So I was never a mean kid. That's a great question. You brought me way back to 3rd grade. That was really weird. How about somebody who hasn't asked one yet? Black Spider-Man, you go.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so check this out. You do have a long sheet of what you've been doing and everything like that. My question is to you, as of now, is there like a voice that you think would be a challenge, that you can create your own voice and provide? Because you did a lot of stuff. And it's like, is there like a type of voice that you think would be a challenge for you?
Yeah, pretty much any impression is really tough for me. There are people who are great at it, and it's just something that I'm not good at, and I have to work really hard at it. I've done it a little bit for movies. I've done voice matches for celebrities and things like that. But we did a convention recently where there was a bunch of crazy voice actors on stage. There's this thing called Twisted Tunes, where we'll read a script from some really famous movie, and we do it in our ridiculous character voices. And they decided that they wanted to do one whole scene as Christopher Walken. Everybody do their best Christopher Walken impression. And I couldn't do it. I do a terrible, terrible Christopher Walken impression. I'm like the only guy, oh no. No. Why? No, I can't do it. I can't do it. But the funny thing was that literally, I think every voice actor that I know knows how to do Christopher Walken. I'm the only one who doesn't. So I ended up doing Filthy Elmo. And I can't do any of it here. But Elmo got real dirty. And so it was like 6 Christopher Walkens and Filthy Elmo, and it kind of became a thing. So yeah, but that's not one of my strong suits. And that's another piece of advice I would give to aspiring voice actors is when you get into the business, know what your strong suits are and really start there first. And I just know I'm not good at that. So I can do some cartoon impressions, and I did that early on. But then I meet the guys who really do it. I used to do Goofy all the time, and I'd look out, Mick! And it sounds pretty good, but then I sit next to Bill Farmer, and he does it. I'm like, oh, no, you're my Goofy. So you not only have to know your own limitations, but recognize greatness and be okay that they're better at it than you are. So, and he's my Goofy. Are you saying 5 more minutes, or are you high-fiving me? Or do you have a question? No, okay. Okay, thank you. That's the guy who's keeping me alive this weekend. By the way, be really nice to your staff here, because they're the reason we're all having a great time. How about a big round of applause for our staff? Thank you, Jeff. Okay, who hasn't asked a question yet? You haven't asked a question right here.
As a voice actor, I'm sure you're used to coming into a lot of situations where you're going in cold.
Yep.
What is some of your biggest, I guess, inspirations for when you're starting out that way with the different characters?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Reading cold, I think, only becomes doable when you've been doing it for a while. It's something. It's kind of a practice thing. I think you have to be comfortable enough to take risks, and that's what a lot of this business is. Really, is you have to get to that point where you're not afraid to fail. So that was something that took me a very long time to do. It took me probably 5 or 6 years before I really got over that fear. And now I'm not afraid to be an idiot. I walk in every room, and I'm so thrilled to fail, because when you do that, there's always something cool on the other side. You've gotten past that hump. And so for new voice actors, I would say just take a risk, try something different. But you do have to have, that said, you do have to have some sort of bag of tricks to work from. So I would suggest taking improv classes. It's very helpful, thinking on your feet. And even now, when I get hired for something, half the time I'll walk into the room and I'll be hired after doing an audition for some character. And they'll say, okay, yeah, that German accent was really great, but we decided to go Australian, go. And if you don't have that in your bag of tricks, you're sunk. But you have to do 2 things. You either have to be honest that you can't do it, or be able to pull it out and do it really, really well. There's really no middle ground. You don't want to fake it to the point, especially with a dialect, that's just going to be a crappy thing. You want to know that you can really nail it. So you got to be honest with your director too, and just let them know what your limits are, and be willing to take a risk and do it. And sometimes they'll just say, I don't care if it's a bad European accent or whatever, just try something. And that's actually how we ended up with the voice for Zeb from Star Wars Rebels. We didn't know what we were going to do with that character at first, and we tried Russian, we tried German, we tried all sorts of different things, and it ended up being like a really bad UK accent with a little bit of Australian thrown in. And sometimes when you start mixing things up or you do a bad accent, it'll turn into something really interesting that they will end up using. So it's different for every session that you walk into, but just be willing to try something different and be willing to fail and know your limits. Did that answer the question? Okay, cool. Awesome. How about you in the back there, sir?
What's your favorite anime to watch?
I never have time to watch anything, dude. It's so bad. Most of the shows I've been in are still shrink wrapped in my office. I don't watch TV. I barely have time to do anything. So I'm either traveling nowadays, or when I'm home for 2 or 3 days during the week, I'm doing recording sessions, or I'm auditioning in the morning, and when I come home at night, I'm auditioning till midnight almost every night. So I barely have time to read, and I've been reading scripts all day, so I don't necessarily want to do that anyway, and I barely have time to watch TV. So finally Mary got me to sit down and watch Walking Dead and a few other TV shows, just so I can sort of know what people are talking about. I've seen maybe half a season of Game of Thrones, but I barely have time to watch my own anime. I didn't see Cowboy Bebop until like 8 years ago. And I saw it out of order, and I've only seen it once. So I don't even remember it. We need to sit down. We've been threatening to sit down and binge it together, and we never have time because we're always traveling somewhere. At a panel? Just binge watch the whole thing? Yeah. Just watch the whole episode and... Oh yeah. You want... Mystery Science Theater with Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. We'd rip up on that so hard. Yeah, I stunk. I was a terrible actor in the beginning of that. How about you right here?
My favorite character of yours is Mom from Korra.
Thank you. You've been purified.
Have you ever seen the show?
I saw Legend of Korra. I did watch Legend of Korra because they wanted me to sort of be aware of what was going on. And I love that show. It was so cool. I only saw the first season, and I've seen little bits of the second season, but again, I got really busy and I was off to other things. But that's one of the shows that we were lucky enough to get the script ahead of time too. So I sort of knew what was going on. In anime, we don't get the script until we walk into that room, and everything that we record is completely out of context. So when I get the chance to read the script, if it's a really good story, I'm fascinated by it, and I'll do whatever I can to watch it. So that's something I did watch, and it's awesome. Loved it. Put you right there, sir.
I was wondering, would you be able to yell out, I am Krogan in your grunt?
Well, grunt was pitched down, so it's going to be 2 or 3 semitones below what I'm doing here. So you're going to have to do the electronics on it, Mr. Engineer. All right. I am Krogan! Oh, thanks, Shepard. How about you? Lines from Spike? Yeah. Favorite lines? Love the kind of woman that can kick my ass. Love that. Sorry if that's going beyond the PG-13. And as who? Mugen? I don't know if I remember anything from Mugen. Man, everything he says has a dirty word in it. I don't know if I can do it. I don't give a rat's tushy about what you think. Give me your gosh darn dumplings. That's editing. How about you all the way in the back there, sir? Oh man, Onizuka was really fun. It was also a really dirty, weird show. That show was really interesting from an actor's perspective because we didn't have a proper script for it. They generally we get an original Japanese translation, and then they have to bring in what they call an ADR writer. And the ADR writer has to take the intent of the original Japanese and fit it into the lips of the characters with English words. And for me, I was an ADR writer for years, and it would take me 40 hours to write a 22-minute script. And we didn't have that luxury on that show. We had the original Japanese translation, which fit nothing on screen, and I was literally ad-libbing the entire show. We were all writing our own lines through the whole thing, so I had no idea if the show even made sense, and I still haven't seen it. But apparently it's really funny, and it came out all right. So that's one of the shows I would actually really like to watch at some point. So we had a lot of fun doing it. We have 1 minute. Oh, one more question. Oh, who has not asked a question yet? Did you ask a question yet? Okay.
Favorite? Oh my goodness, let me see. I have to see what my favorite was, because I don't remember.
It has to be as Guillemon.
Takatomon, will you bring me some more bread later? Right now it's sleepy by nappy time.
Thank you, guys. I gotta go. We'll be here for the rest of the weekend. Thank you so much for coming to see me. I really appreciate it. Love you guys.